Okay, does anyone know how to look up prior due process decisions in your state? Yes, it has to be on your State Department of Education website. They have to make them public. Now, there's a big difference between published decisions, meaning due process cases that went all the way to decision. And there's not going to be a lot of them. And in some states, because they don't have special education attorneys like Alabama does, because I think that's where you live on this particular question. If you have a state that has special education attorneys, then you'll end up seeing more due process decisions simply because more due process cases are going to be filed where the experts exist to be able to lead or help assist parents through that process. Not saying that they're not going to exist. They will exist because parents can act as their own attorneys in this area, and can act pro se is what that's called. And so even those decisions. But I can tell you that the win-loss record for parents representing themselves is dismal. It's horrible compared to the percentages of parent success if they have a special education attorney um, uh, working on their behalf. Um, the it goes more to about a 50-50 level, maybe a little bit higher. Whereas the win rate for parents representing themselves is, I mean, really low. So you can get those, but there are some parents that are like, well, how come, all due process, complaints, let's say in Alabama on a yearly basis, there's somewhere between 150 and 200 due process cases that are filed. And those are only the ones that are done formally, because you also got to remember that there's also just requests for mediation. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean a due process. Okay, so you can request mediation without drafting or filing a due process case. Then on top of it, um, there are mechanisms that some attorneys use to where they work with the school sort of informally, and that's not recorded with the State Department of Education. And like I said, very few cases end up going to an actual hearing. And then if it makes it all the way to the end of the hearing where the hearing officer makes a decision, then at that point, a decision is rendered. And that has to be on your State Department of Education website. Some states are overseen by the Attorney General's office, but this is public information. They do redact the names, so it's not identifiable for the child. But the decisions themselves and the scenarios are they are supposed to be public. And if you don't know where to find them, and I know Alabama's changed their format, and some states like New Mexico, you can find it on the PED website, the Public Education Department website. You just sort of have to know where to look. And if that still doesn't help you, then you call the State Department of Education in your state and you ask to speak to whoever oversees your due process for special education. That person will help you navigate and find where those decisions are. Now, you're saying you're reading some of the cases with your assigned hearing officer, and so far the record isn't looking good for parents. I think I know who you're talking about because in Alabama there's 4 due process hearing officers, and there's one in particular that um, overwhelmingly, due to prior decisions, rules on behalf of the school. And yes, the selection of hearing officers is very random. You can't predict who it is. It's done in equitable way so that all the hearing officers have the same number of cases. But at the same time, you can't sit there and as play the game to where you try to judge shop and find the one that might be a little bit more amenable to parent issues. And so yes, if I think and I don't know if you're representing yourself or whether you have Well, there's only one other attorney that, if you're living where I think you live, that practices down there, other than me. I think there's somebody else down there that dabbles, um, but doesn't have a very good win-loss record. Um, if I don't know, but I'm just saying that, yeah, if that's the hearing officer, then um, I mean, it's not like I get all the hearing officers, so I'm not going to sit there and say that, you know, I don't care. I can't sit there and go, oh my God, so I don't treat any case differently, but there is a realistic acknowledgement, depending on who I get, as far, and really, it really sort of impacts how the school responds. And I find that when a certain hearing officer gets assigned, then what I tend to end up finding is that the school ends up getting a little bit more confident and aggressive, and more difficult to work with, at least the board attorneys, um, because they like their odds against this particular, or with this particular hearing officer. And, so be it. I don't care. Um, it doesn't bother me. I don't file cases unless I'm confident that we have a good case. So, there you have it. But that's what I would do. Anyone out there that's interested in reading hearing officer decisions, that's how you get them.